We didn't get into it, but the news that happened yesterday for you answered. Frank Ragnow has retired from the Detroit Lions. He said that his body is just taking a toll. Said that he's tried, he's done everything that he can. So he is part of the ways, at least as of right now. What are your first thoughts when you heard this?
Honestly, it's what we talked about on Friday with Ryan Ermanni, and I told Lions fans, get ready, buckle up. We are, for the first time, entering an era with this BNL team, as many of you love to call them, and it is a brand new culture, but it's also a brand new way of doing things. And this team has never done itself any favors by keeping guys around. We're going to be saying goodbye to a lot of core players over the next year and a half. That's just going to happen. Ragnow, I think that the Lions knew this was happening, and if they didn't know it was for sure going to happen this year, they had an inkling, but they knew that he wasn't going to be around for age 30 season. So at age 29, you get a guy that has been broken down, and listen, he's been a warrior. Guy's a Pro Bowler. He's really all pro, in my opinion. But when you look at what it takes to win a Super Bowl, it's not going 15-2, as we learned the hard way last season. It's being healthy when the playoffs start and having that chemistry and cohesion. If you have Ragnow in this line, this offensive line all season long, he's probably going to miss 3 or 4 or 5 games with his injury issues. You have drafted over the last 2 seasons, this included, some awesome young offensive linemen. And what you're going to see, this might cost them week 1 in Green Bay. They might lose because the cohesion and chemistry isn't quite there with this new look, younger offensive line. But I promise you, Lions fans, by the time the playoffs come around, this will be a favor that has been extended to the Lions by having to utilize these young guys and having to force them into a unit that hopefully will play healthy together all season. I'm not worried. I will miss him, but I think that the Lions this year and moving forward will be better off because the change is made now.
I appreciate the fact that you said in week 1 maybe they lose that because of the cohesion, adding a new center for Jared Goff, a new offensive coordinator, figuring out that. I appreciate that part. But I don't think you answered my question honestly, or maybe not the way I intended it. When you first heard the news of Frank Ragnow, you cannot tell me you went to the space of, well, this is going to be all, and I appreciate this move, and this is going to happen. You're going to lose players. You know, this may happen, but at least we have Tate Ratledge, and last year maybe we see what Christian Mahogany can be. I understand that. Frank Ragnow is a force multiplier. Like, he is an individual that has anchored the number 1 offensive line for the last 4 years, maybe going back and forth with the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think we can just dismiss that easily and that fast what he's been for this team. The catalyst in terms of the identity of the Lions, it's the offensive line, man. It's the offensive line. It's the run game. And that run game last year featuring Kevin Zeitler at right guard and Frank Ragnow at center, it was not only elite, it was the number 1 rushing attack in the league, not saying the guy who had 2,000 in Philly.
And I agree with you unless you saw it coming, and I saw this coming. My insider that I go back and forth with, and I drop some of his stuff in here, there was a lot of worry that this guy wasn't going to come back this season. And I think that you saw the Lions address that need in the draft. While everybody's screaming for an edge rusher, the Lions knew where their need was. And if it wasn't this year, it was going to be next year. We were not going to have Ragnow for more than for more than 1 year. So to me, I'm not surprised. Yeah, it sucks. He's a great player, and we'll probably miss him more in the locker room than on the field. And I don't want to offend anybody by saying that. I'm not trying to take anything away from what this guy is on the field, but his utility has been going down with his health.
Yeah.
And I saw this coming. I love what the Lions did last year with Mahogany, this year with the 2 that they got, obviously Ratledge being the key piece. But this just wasn't a shock to me. I watched Lions Nation just mourn yesterday. And this is the same deal as Anzalone, guys. When Alex Anzalone, as much as we love him, very much like we love Frank Ragnow, is not on this roster next year, we'll be just fine.
Maz, before I bring it to you, I'm gonna say something. Dear Detroit Lions, Brad Holmes, Sheila Hamp, Dan Campbell, all the governing bodies, everybody, Chris Spillman, please do me a favor. This is coming from a newly dawned Lions fan. I have been dialed into since the comeback, since Dan Campbell got here. I'm watching these Lions teams. I'm cheering for these Lions teams. I urge you to do everything you can to get one more year out of Frank Ragnow. Tom Mazaway, I agree with you 100%. Yesterday, you said, no, something has to happen. Mm-hmm. There has to be a conversation. There has to be a price point. There has to be something that can appease Frank, Miss Frank, and Little Frank. Because we need Frank Ragnow more than you know. Look, you're talking about a team that was this close 2 years ago, this close last year. Now it seems like injuries or lack of this. Now Frank Ragnow is retiring. Coordinators going this way. The window it closes. The window doesn't stay open forever. And I'm not saying that it's closed because it's not. But it's closing. You're talking about the best offensive line in the league when Frank Ragnow was center for it. It is how the line. I don't know. I'm out here begging, man. I feel like I'm begging. It's something that they can have. It's Frank Ragnow. It's something that can happen. I would not allow Frank Ragnow to leave Allen Park, to leave the state of Michigan, to go anywhere. Maz, they need to do whatever they can to make sure that he is the center when the season starts. I'm telling you, the locker room, you absolutely brought it up, absolutely correct. Frank Ragnow is the anchor of this offensive line, and Frank Ragnow needs to be on the team. Will be on the team if the Lions are to win the Super Bowl.
Let's mark this day. It's June the 3rd. It's a Tuesday, and it's about 2:15 in the afternoon. Let's mark this day just in case this man decides that he can give it one more year. I want to take you back. I want to take you back to the NFC Championship.
We got you.
I want to take you back to the NFC Championship game after that loss at San Francisco when they were cleaning out their lockers. This was Frank Ragnow. I want you to listen to what he said then and see if we can get him to change his mind.
I'm not sure if there's a guy who maybe needs an offseason more than, I mean, obviously you'd like to be playing 2 more weeks, but just with everything that you've dealt with, what's your process like this offseason? How much time do you get back to just where you can start to do football stuff again?
Yeah, I think this year it's gonna take some time. I just need to be healthy. It takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
It really takes a toll on you. So I need to find a way to get back to Frank. And I don't regret any of this at all, but it weighs on you. And it's just going to take some time and really figure everything out to make sure that I'm feeling good. Not only for me, the football player, but for me to be the best husband, the best father, and everything is that.
Look, as a former player, I definitely understand where he's coming from. And this is exactly the conversation I had with Maz. Look, he's a husband. He's a father. You want to make sure that you have quality of health, bless you. You want to make sure you're good for your wife, the kids, the whole nine. Like, you want to make sure that you take care of that. So I appreciate that. This is just coming from a selfish fan. Nothing more. I remember there was a left tackle one time for the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks will let him do whatever he wanted to do because they trusted him. No, don't show up to camp on time. You don't even need to come to camp. This is Walter Jones.
I knew it.
This is Walter Jones. You know what? Hey, you have a football field in your backyard. Just
Hall of
stay in
Fame.
shape. Hall of Fame. First ballot Hall of Famer, by the way. Hey, just be ready when the season comes around. You just get it. Do whatever you need to do because we need you, Walter Jones, who helped them get to a Super Bowl right down the street, and they should have won the game, but they lost to the Steelers. I just think that there's something that you can do and package it in such a way. Like, I love Frank, and I know he would if he could. But every once in a while, you get a little bit extra push, a little bit extra incentive to get Big Frank back on the center with this line, man.
This isn't talking your buddy into going putt-putt, all right? Everyone has underestimated how serious his toe is. The guy could have retired last year. And I see the chat giving me hell over my insider, but my insider last year told me that this toe was a very serious problem. Now, we're fixated as sports fans on ACLs and torn Achilles, but when you're talking about a toe on a guy that is taking on 350-pound men and has to go dig into his feet and pivot off of that toe, it's just something that not only debilitates you on the field, but you take it with you after the game all week long. It's something that goes forward. And everybody in Detroit was just thinking, hey, this guy's a warrior. The The guy was a Warrior for his last year. There's plenty of reasons why he wouldn't have come back, health reasons. He came back because he is a Warrior. And I love you guys' sentiment. Let's go bring him some ice cream and bonbons and talk him into coming back. Talk him into being an assistant coach. Keep him in Allen Park. Keep him working with the offensive line. But this guy is done, Lions fans. This guy is done, Bray and Maz. I love the idea of talking him into it. But A, that's not happening. B, this team is already ready to move on. Somebody in the chat was here talking about, actually, it's Jason Kenyon dropping a $20 super chat on it. Going to miss Big Frank like missing Travis Swanson. Frank was the perfect replacement for Swan. The big boys from Arkansas held center down for almost 2 decades combined. I bet Glasgow gives the best. The drafts were the sign, and that is exactly it. Listen, this Lions team will always draft the best player, but I'm sure that there were other guys on their board in the second round. They took Ratledge for a reason, and again, in Dan and Brad, we must trust.
All right, and Dan and Brad, we must
Lions
trust. Brad,
fans.
you brought that up. Here's another point, Matt. I want to get you involved in this. If Brad and Dan knew the situation last year, which they said before the season, hey, he was this close to retiring last year before the season, you guys didn't know it. Fair enough. Are we now looking back at the draft last year, like if you had this information, would you have drafted Ennis Rakestraw when Cam Jurgens was there? Would you have drafted Ennis Rakestraw or Terrion Arnold, for that matter, when Bart Graham was there? Or would you have done those moves? Like now you look back at trying the Giovanni Manu project.
They reached for him, by the way.
Let's go and why reach if you're not in a situation to be reaching? If you understood, we might lose Graham. We might lose Big Frank. This is something that we need to prepare for, considering the magnitude. Why Ennis Rakestraw? Why Terrion Arnold? Why not Cam Jurgens? Why not Bart Graham? Why this year? Why Talik Williams, who we're still trying to figure out? Or why not the number 1 center on the board? It's supposed to try to turn Tate Ratledge into something.
I believe that Brad, last year, obviously, he gave a couple third-round picks away to come up and get that Canadian kid, Giovanni Manu. Yeah. And he is a project, and he is still working his way on that line. But then they got lucky a little bit later. They got lucky, and they picked another starter out of that draft.
Mahogany.
And then this year, pardon?
Mahogany?
Yeah, they got lucky. They got Mahogany. It was a blessing. This year, they took the kid, Tate Ratledge. I think they looked at him as he was going to be the next center. I believe they had him circled, and that was the guy they wanted. Yeah. Sure, they wanted to get their defense, their line, not an end, but someone that could take over for DJ Reader in a minute. And they got Tyleik Williams. They believe he's going to be a superstar, a guy that's going to take over. So here's the scoop. Next year, you're losing Taylor Decker. There's not a question in my mind that he will play this year and retire. I hope he doesn't. I hope he's fine. I hope he's healthy. But he's next up, guys. So we will see what they do in the next draft. Or they've got almost $10 million to spend now that Frank has left the team. What will they do with that $10 million? Are they going to pay a little bit to each guy? Are they going to pay a couple of cheap defensive linemen? Or are they going to bring in another center? They kept Graham Glasgow. They kept him instead of Zeitler. We're like, why are you keeping Glasgow over Zeitler? It's because Glasgow could play 2 positions. Zeitler is not a center. Glasgow is going to be your starting center, and Ratledge is going to be the guy that's going to be taking over for him. I do hope Frank changes his mind, but the way he wrote his Instagram thanking everybody, I just don't see him changing his mind, Bray.
At some point in time, you have to stop drafting players that can do a little bit of both and draft a guy that is predominantly that. Like when you drafted Penei Sewell, you knew what you wanted. You knew exactly what you wanted, and that's what you got out of him. Anson, where are you right now? I understand that you're cool and you're exactly fine, but make it make sense on the money side, because 8.5 is something extra to have in your tank this year.
I don't think that they spend it right now. I've been talking about Kendall Fuller for some time. We're pretty deep in the secondary. I don't necessarily know that we need him, but this is money that they're going to hold on to until training camp cuts. There'll be some guys that pop up out of nowhere that get released by teams. And, this is a team that can use that money on a 1-year contract to fill a hole. Maybe they have an injury during training camp. Maybe they have their eyes on a guy that they know is maybe going to be outed somewhere. So for me, I think that it's money that you don't see heavily spent right now or even touched right now. I think that comes around September. But again, we looked at that graphic yesterday or on Friday. This team next year has a whole lot of talent that they need to extend and take care of. Homegrown talent that they drafted, talent that they've developed, and they've shown us their DNA is in their own guys. They want to stay with their own guys. That's who they want to extend. Just one last thing about the toe there. Jason Kenyon hopped in with another super chat. We appreciate you. As a pro retired Cowboy, his foot was destroyed worse than Frank's. He gave everything like Jason did. Same as him, though. He thought he had it. Foot said no over and over. Ended up having surgery. So, I listen. The Lions, they know what they're doing beyond player development. They're watching their money and they're holding it for the guys that need to stay here for another 5-7 years. Yeah. So this money, you're not going to see it go out the door quickly. But I will see somebody. I think somebody, one or two guys, get signed around training camp.
I'm glad you talked about that roster and what it's looking like after we talked to Dave Burkett, who is joining us in 2:30 or so. Can't wait to talk to him about today and talk about further. But Pro Football Focus, they came out with the top teams in the NFC. We will have that
Fascinating.
list. Want to see these depth charts, want to see what you think, and want to dive a little bit into that. Last thing on Frank Ragnow, and we do have some information on DJ Reed, who I haven't heard. Guy we need to talk about. DB number 1 for the Detroit Lions. Pete, put that stat about Frank Ragnow as it relates to how many sacks he's given up in 5,541 snaps.
Just 6.
Just to
crazy.
put a pin in the magnitude, Anson.
That's crazy.
Well,
6 sacks in 5,541 offensive snaps.
That's crazy.
and with being that good,
Wow.
and that commitment to excellence.
That's heavy.
If he's retiring, it tells me he knows he's not going to play at the same level due to his toe.
More so not necessarily about him retiring, because I believe that, as a player, I understand. I retired because my knee told me no. My knee said you're not going to be what you were, so the decision's now on you. So I understand that. But it's just more pointing to how good he was.
Oh, no doubt. Tip our hats,
How good
man.
he
Tip
was.
our hats. But that day is done. The future holds